which 10 words you use could be the difference between like 100 views or like a million views.
So what makes a great YouTube title?
I looked at, 1,000 video titles. The top 50 of those 1,000, they had like these 5 things in common.
In this episode, I chat with YouTube title expert and founder of Creator Hooks, Jake Thomas.
The biggest thing is like, did you actually deliver on the promise that you made in your title? And that's like the power of YouTube, is that there are so many ways for people to discover your videos.
We talk about what led him to help YouTubers with titles. We discuss the elements that make a great title and dive into how to find title inspiration for your next video. Somebody watching this, what's one thing that they can take away from this whole conversation when it comes to YouTube titles?
2 words, click and stick. So here are 2 quick stories of the power of titles.
This is the Video Lab show where I have high-value conversations with experts in video marketing, video content, and video platforms. I'm your host, Caleb, and I've been helping businesses grow with video since 2012. I'm a video content creator, coach, and founder of the Video Lab, a content studio located in downtown Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If you're a business or individual wanting to learn more about how video can help you create more awareness, build trust, and generate more sales, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future conversations. Here's my conversation with Jake and how a YouTube title could affect the performance of your video. Well, Jake, thanks so much for being on this podcast. I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Caleb. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's cold here. It's like 10 degrees at the time of recording this. So I know we were talking just before this that you were like sweating outside, walking your dog. I'm so jelly about that, but I'm going to get over it. I'm inside. I'm where it's warm. I have shelter. That's okay.
There you go. That's right.
It's okay. Now,
Jake,
yeah, Jake, can we, I don't know, can we officially call you the YouTube title daddy?
Nobody else has claimed that. So based on that alone, I think so.
Okay, so I think we might just like put that in the description, YouTube title daddy. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Jake. Like why YouTube titles?
Yeah. So I probably should have known that I would end up here. I did everything marketing. I started a business in college, totally failed. We was a t-shirt company. Like the most money we made was when we gave away all of our inventory to like Goodwill and just like wrote it off as like tax write-off. Nice. Yeah, it failed. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to like make it my life mission to like figure out marketing and sales and like how to actually like drive traffic and make money online. So I started with like the marketing thing, worked at a couple agencies, went in-house, did all the marketing stuff. I liked YouTube. I was so bad at YouTube titles. And my boss was like, hey, like, yeah, YouTube title is like the most important part of your job. He's like, if you don't write a good title, nobody's going to watch our videos. And if nobody watches our videos, then we just wasted all this time making this video. We're not going to get any sales, leads, subscribers. He's like, so yeah, you need to write great titles. And I had no idea what made a good title. And I almost got fired. We had like a 90-day trial period. And I finally figured it out. And then I was like, man, this is awesome. Like YouTube titles are like 10 words, but like which 10 words you use could be the difference between like 100 views or like a million views. And it's just words. So you don't need it. You don't need a good camera. You don't need any assets or like know how to use like Photoshop or anything. So yeah, the leverage that you have in YouTube titles is probably like one of the biggest things that like one of the biggest leveraged tools you have online to like drive real results for your business and for your channel.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it so much.
Now you have Creator Hooks, and I love Creator Hooks. First of all, I use it for these podcast episodes, right? I use it for, I use it for like newsletters as well, like that type of thing as well. So can you just explain what Creator Hooks is? I'm talking it up here, but can you explain what it is and like what was the evolution of Creator Hooks?
Yeah. So it started off as a free newsletter. So the company that I worked at when I almost got fired and I figured out how to write good titles, I was a fishing company. So we did like we were an educational channel for like the southeastern United States.
Sweet.
So like there was nowhere for me to like, we didn't really have other channels for me to go see like, all right, this is how I should write a title. Like
Yeah.
we were kind of like, I don't want to say we were like one of one, but like we didn't have that many direct competitors.
Mm,
But like what I did, so I would go to like a finance channel,
mm,
and they would be like, 10 best credit cards of 2025. So we would do 10 best trout lures of 2025.
mm.
So I would just go outside of my niche, find outlier videos, like videos that did well relative to the other videos on that channel. And that was a thing that made me go from like not getting fired to like actually being successful in my job.
Awesome.
Um, and every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we would have our meeting. So I was the channel manager. We had fishing
Mm,
coaches, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, like let's make these five video ideas this week." And so that was kind of what we did. I was like, all right, here, like this did well for finance, this did well in marketing, this did well in like sewing. So
yeah.
let's do this for fishing. And it did really well. And then I was like, it doesn't really matter what like niche you're in. Like
Mm,
I this is like I think this could work well for other people.
awesome.
Um, and I was like, well, I could probably start a newsletter around this, and like just it's literally like just me like doing what I'm doing for this fishing channel, like saying, "Hey, here's what's working. Here's how we could use it." But except it's just like one big email blast.
Yeah.
So that's why the newsletter. That's what the newsletter is. It's 5 videos that did really well for those channels, and then kind of like I break down why they worked, and then like how you could use them for your channel, like send us some other different ways
Mm,
to use them. And then so I went from that to like now we have like a database of all like 1,200 titles that I've covered in the
yeah.
newsletter, and then
Which
you
is
can
a
also
great newsletter. Letter. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's a great newsletter every
thank you.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love writing newsletter. It's awesome. um, and so we went from like free newsletter to like database. So now we have an AI title and idea
Mm,
generator that's like kind of trained on that
yeah.
database on what is working. So yeah, free newsletter and then software.
Yeah, awesome. Now you kind of talked about like an outlier video. Like what is when it comes to the YouTube platform, what are outlier videos?
So YouTube makes it really easy. Like they tell you the date the video is published and like how many views it got. So you can just like go to a channel and just kind of like scan and see how many views each of their videos got.
Yeah.
All right, we have like 10,000 views,
Mm,
12,000 views, 8,000 views, 9,000 views, 100,000 views. It's like, okay, like they averaged 10,000, but this video got 100,000. Like that video did 10 times better than all the other videos.
yeah.
So that would, so that's a big outlier.
Mm,
Um, and if you like that one outlier like doesn't necessarily mean like okay, like this is a great video. However, if you start to notice patterns between outliers, you're going to kind of train yourself on knowing what makes a good YouTube title.
yeah.
Um, and that's how I initially got started is like I read and I wrote about outliers every single week and every single day, and I
Mm,
would study like 200 channels a week, just trying to figure out like, oh cool, like I looked at 1,000 video titles, and like the top 10 or like the top 50 of those 1,000, they had like these 5 things in common.
mm,
So now like, okay, like now I know what works. And like, now you can start using those things.
yeah.
And that's what the newsletter is kind of sharing those insights. But yeah, I mean, it's YouTube really makes it easy and fun to study. However,
Yeah.
I know that like if you're a business owner, you probably don't have time to be studying about 200
Yep.
channels a week. So the newsletter tries to do that, summarize all that for you.
That's why you're doing all the research for us, right?
Yes,
Now
exactly.
now, okay, I love YouTube. I think it's like the perfect storm of a platform, right? Like it's fully search engine, right? It's like fully community driven and it's fully video centric, fully video based. I mean, yes, there is the community page that you can post things to and all that, but like 99.9% of YouTube is just total video base. Now this show that we're talking on right now is like, for like entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, people that are interested in using video to grow their business. Like and YouTube in general, like why is YouTube like such a great platform for growth from your experience?
There's, I think, 2 things. So, one, they're specifically like for like kind of conversion.
Mm,
So I had elbow tendonitis
mm,
and I could Google like how to fix elbow tendonitis.
right.
And I might like land up on like, Mayo Clinic or something.
Yeah.
And it feels a little like sterile, right?
Mm, yep.
Um, and I also, who actually wrote this? Like, yes, sure, like Dr. Smith wrote it, but
Right.
like, did he really?
But yeah,
Uh,
who's Dr.
like, yeah, yeah. Well, who was Dr. Smith? And like, it was probably an intern or it was probably
Mm,
AI written. Like, I don't know.
yeah. Yep.
But if I go to YouTube and I search elbow tendonitis, you're going to see like, Dr. Johnson,
Mm,
PT blah 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 blah, and
yep.
he's gonna be like, "Hey, I'm Dr. Johnson. I'm a physical therapist at Tampa Bay, physical therapy.
Yep.
We get hundreds of clients that come in with with elbow tendonitis.
Mm,
Here's what you can do about it." And
mm,
I'm like, "Okay, you can't fake being a doctor on video.
yeah.
You
Right.
can if like on in writing, it could be any article can be like
Mm,
written, but like you can't fake credibility on YouTube, and that's a cool thing. Like you can be like, hey, like here's what I did. Like, we talked about this, last time we chatted. It's like, hey, I've been like, editing videos and podcasts for
yep.
10 years and blah blah
Yep.
blah. Like, but like there's, and I don't want to say like there's no denying it on YouTube because obviously like anybody can make it up,
Mhm.
but like from an authority figure just saying that like to
Yeah.
the camera, it's like, I believe you a lot more than like, just kind of reading some like
Right.
probably AI generated blog post.
Yeah. It's kind of that, like, human relatable element that comes to it.
Yeah.
That
100
yeah.
percent.
Now, okay, so when we kinda think about, like, um so I talk to a lot of businesses that basically use YouTube. I have a pen in my hand, and that's kinda distracting me. We kinda talk a little bit, with these businesses, like, they're using YouTube almost more of like a hosting platform for their videos for, like, maybe their websites or things like that. Like, you know, for what message would you have for somebody, like, using YouTube as just a, hosting platform? Like, how much more can they get from YouTube if they put that time in and try? You have
Yeah.
anything for that?
YouTube is awesome. So your videos live forever, which is
Yeah.
great and
Yep.
also not so great.
Yeah.
So if you kind of treat your channel like a content dumping ground,
Mm,
you know, and you just kind of you dump, it's like you said, like you treat it like it's just a hosting platform. You just
yeah.
put in like your tutorials and your testimonials and stuff.
Mm,
YouTube is going to be showing people your videos, because when somebody logs into YouTube, if on let's say like on their computer, they
yeah.
log into YouTube, they have a homepage and they're going to
Yeah.
see a bunch of videos, and those videos are often influenced by what you previously watched.
Mm,
So if I'm a physical therapist and you go watch one of my videos and then, the next day you log into YouTube on the homepage and you see like testimonial from John Smith. Well, it's like, no, I
yeah.
don't care about that.
Like, the file name is the actual
Yeah.
film?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I've seen it, yeah. I'm sure you have too.
I have. I have. And like you're not gonna watch that video, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
YouTube is gonna be like, okay, like noted, people aren't spending that much time on this channel.
yeah.
However, if the opposite effect is like, if I watch this video about elbow tendonitis
Mm,
and then the next day I log into YouTube and it's like three mistakes when rehabbing your elbows, I'm like, oh, I need to watch this video
right.
because now I'm trying to rehab my elbows and I need to know what these mistakes are.
Yeah,
So
I don't
I'm
wanna
gonna
make those mistakes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna watch that video, and YouTube is like, okay, this person watched one video, and then the next time they came into YouTube, they spent more time watching another video from this
Mm,
channel. Let's show them more videos.
yeah,
And they're gonna show those videos on the homepage every time they log into YouTube. They're gonna show it on the sidebar, like recommended. And it can be a snowball effect where it's like,
mm,
okay, they watch one video and they watch another video, and all of a sudden, like they're binging your channel. So when I think about the YouTube algorithm, I think there's two words: click and stick.
oh,
YouTube wants you to
nice.
click, and the YouTube wants you to stick.
Yeah,
And stick could be in this current session, like, okay, I watched this one video, this whole video, right? But also it's like session time as well. It's not just
mm,
this one video. I ended up binging your channel.
Right.
So I spent an hour on YouTube after I watched this video. So
Yeah.
YouTube is going to be like, we need to show these videos to everybody,
Yeah.
because once somebody watches one of these videos, they watch the whole channel. They spend an hour on
Mm,
YouTube. Like that's what we want. Um, and that's like the power of YouTube, is that there are so many ways for people to discover your videos. They can
yeah.
discover them on the homepage, or like, recommended up
Mm,
next. Or like if you're searching as well. But that's the opportunity that
yeah.
you have, is to like just incredible viral growth.
Yep.
But also it's kind of the responsibility that you have of like, you need to treat your channel like a body of work.
Mm,
And ideally you have, one format, and one audience, so that you can kind of encourage that binging behavior. So
right.
that someone's like, okay, like all these videos are relevant for me, I'm going to watch all of these, and I'm going to love them. And that's a big trademark of the most popular channels, like the biggest
Yeah.
channels, is that
Mm,
you every if you are the ideal viewer for that channel, almost every video is relevant to you, and you're gonna watch them and you're gonna love them.
you're gonna click on
Um,
them. Yeah.
exactly. Whereas a big mistake people will make is like, they'll make like a 2-minute video, a 10-minute video,
Mm,
an hour long podcast,
mm,
a step by step tutorial, a vlog, and the people kind of, they want what they want. Um,
mm,
like they're podcast listeners, so they just want to listen to hour-long podcasts, or they're like 10-minute instructional video watchers, so they only want those.
mm.
And that's why YouTube kind of separated shorts from like long form videos,
Right.
is because YouTube, like, you can kind of see like, oh wow, like you're a shorts watcher or you're not a shorts watcher.
Mm,
Like it's just kind of, it's kind of different. So yeah, the ideal YouTube strategy is like, you have one format, one audience,
mm.
and you're just trying to build a bingeable backlog. And
So you're saying YouTube knows us better than we know ourselves.
yes, yes,
So that
exactly.
I mean, that's a great transition into the importance of those titles then, right? Because like we want people to stay on our channel. We want people to binge these videos, but if they're not clickable in the first place, well, they're not going to watch them. So
Yeah.
like in the most like simplest terms, like talk to me like I'm a fifth grader. Like why are YouTube titles important?
You nailed it. If someone reads the title and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch that video," then they're not going to watch that video.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it's like the door. Like, if the door is like, like locked shut, like you can't go in the room,
Yep.
right?
Totally.
And having a bad title is like having a locked door. Like,
Mm,
it's just like, okay, sweet. Like, I see that there's a door there. I'm not going in there because it's locked.
yeah.
You just can't do it.
Mm,
But if it's like it said, if it's like a nice, exciting door with a nice little window, you see, oh wow, there's all this cool stuff inside. Like, I'm gonna open up the door and like I'm gonna go inside and check it out.
yeah. No,
Uh,
I didn't put this on our like talking points that I sent you, but like do you have any like favorite titles that you've seen that just
uh,
come to mind?
so I do
I know I
one.
put you on the spot with this one.
No, 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 no. It's good. I'm 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 looking it up.
Yeah, sweet.
They One of my favorites is Meet the Billionaire That Works a Normal Job. Um,
Okay.
and
I better write that one down.
So what I like about it is, just like contrast, and
Mm,
it's counterintuitive.
yeah.
So, if we're gonna get like tactical in like
Yep.
what makes a good title, like curiosity is one of
Yeah.
the best
Mm,
things to do, and like, one of the best kind of emotions to generate in your titles is
yes.
curiosity. And tactically, being counterintuitive and using contrast are your tactical ways to build curiosity.
Yeah.
So Meet the Billionaire That Works a Normal Job, like billionaire and normal job, like there's a ton of contrast
Yeah.
there. But like, if you're a billionaire, like how did you become a billionaire, like by
Right.
working a normal job? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It's
I
very
have so
counter.
many questions. So many questions.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So so that I love that. Another kind of same thing is luxury fashion is for broke people, where it's just a
Oh,
very simple
jeez.
statement, but it's
Okay.
counterintuitive. Like it's literally, um,
There go your
it lit
headphones.
You're a little too excited.
Yeah, no,
Ask
we're
me
talking
about my
titles here. He's getting excited.
titles. Like it's literally the same thing. Like, billionaire that works a normal job, luxury
Mm,
fashionist for broke people.
mm,
You're just pairing two opposite things and you're making a counterintuitive statement.
right.
Um, and those are two examples that I love. And they're very simple. You're not like, you'll never guess what this billionaire does every day. It's
Yeah.
not, not hyperbolic. It's just like, hey, meet the billionaire that works a
Mm,
normal job. It's a very simple statement. But it
yeah.
builds, yeah, like you said, I have
Yeah,
so
so
many
many questions
questions.
about that.
Um,
Now, you mentioned like curiosity, contrast. Are there other like aspects to titles, like kind of like those almost like triggers to these titles? Like what are some other triggers that are pretty popular when it comes to titles?
uh, yeah, I've got 43. So how
Yeah,
long, how
yeah,
long do you
yeah.
have here? No, I mean, so backing it up a little bit. So, like what makes a good
Yes.
title is three emotions: curiosity, fear,
Mm,
and desire. So it could be like curiosity and fear, and desire. But some mix of
nice.
those
Yeah.
three. And then tactically, how do you actually build curiosity,
Yeah.
fear, desire in your titles? For curiosity, we talked about being counterintuitive and using contrast. Another one is open
Mm,
loop, which is kind of the most popular way to build curiosity. So it might be like, do this every day to
mm.
build your podcast.
We don't
Um,
take notes here.
and it's like, okay, do what? So do this
Mm,
every day. You might know this as like a
yep.
cliffhanger. Um, but yeah, so open loop or cliffhangers is probably the most popular way to build curiosity. As far as negativity or fear goes, talking about
Yeah.
scary thing, fear, talking about regrets,
Mm,
um, warning people. So warnings work really well. Talking about regrets because like everybody wants to avoid regrets. I was
yes.
talking about mistakes,
Mm,
and like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be a fear mongerer. I don't want to be clickbaity.
yep.
A simple way to kind of get around that is to talk about your regrets.
Mm,
So it might be like, uh, you know, you will regret this if you don't, you will regret this, this podcast, this video marketing tip,
yep.
or you
Yeah.
will regret not doing this video marketing tip.
Yeah. Right.
Or you could say, my biggest regret
Mm,
I made on YouTube.
mm,
So my feels a lot less aggressive and fear
yeah.
mongery than you will.
So
Uh,
it's a little bit more like personalization too within
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like personalization, just turning that fear mongery dial down a little bit by
Yeah.
telling a personal story.
Hmm.
And that's a great way to still use this super powerful emotion
Yeah.
of fear and negativity, regret, loss aversion, all that fun stuff,
Hmm.
um, and just telling your own story using that. Um,
Now, now you brought up this word clickbaity. Clickbaity. Now, how do we title a video, something like this? But because I have this conversation a lot with people trying to, title videos or whatever. They're like, I don't want them to sound clickbaity. Can you first of all just like describe what clickbaity is? And then like how is that different? How is clickbaity different from a good title or a great title or something along those lines?
yeah. So you could be like, I want to clickbait. I want you to click my video. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna clickbait. Um, but like, so what makes something not clickbait is that if you actually deliver
there
on
we
the
go.
promise that you made in your
Yep,
title.
sweet.
Um, Ideally, you will start with the title and you're like, oh, that's like too extreme. That feels like clickbait. But like, what if instead you're like, wow, that title is too extreme, feels like clickbait. How could we actually make a video that delivers on that
Mm,
crazy title? Like,
mm,
what if we just made a crazy video that
yeah.
matched this crazy title? And then it's like, man, that's a really good video. Crazy. So there's that way to think about it. But
Yeah,
like
totally.
the biggest thing is like, did you actually deliver on the promise that you made in your title?
Mm, mm,
And in order to do that, the best way is to come up with a title first,
yeah.
and then in your intro, like address the title, confirm the viewer, like, hey, you're in the right spot. Like, this is like, you clicked on 10 ways to to grow on YouTube. In this video, you're going to learn about 10 ways to grow on YouTube. It's like,
Nice.
okay, this is not clickbait. Like, this is
Right.
exactly what I thought it was. Now I'm definitely going to watch this video because it's about what I thought it was. Whereas if you make the video, then you try to slap on a title later, there might be a kind of some dissonance between the title and the intro and the
Yeah.
content, and everything's just going to be all messed up. Life will be a lot easier if you come up with a title first, and you won't be clickbaity because you're going to come up with like, okay, people want to click on this topic. This is a cool, exciting
Mm.
topic, and that is exactly what is delivered in this video.
I think that's one of the biggest things that, after working with you and talking with you a little bit more is like, that's almost like a mindset shift for me personally of like, oh, you know what? I can come up with the title first, like I don't have to come up with this video. And then, so like, you get that newsletter that comes like every Monday. Like, what are some of those titles? How can it relate to your industry? Like, boom, there's a title, but then there's the video, right? Like, you can, like, I love that aspect of it. And that's helped me a lot with making my own personal YouTube videos of like, oh, I can actually come up with the title first. And in fact, that might even be a better way to do it because then it's like there's the topic idea and it's something that's already working in other like niches. You know what I mean? So I love that. And that's been so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that will make your life so much easier,
Yeah.
versus trying to come up with some crazy title to match
Right.
the content.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
honestly, it's really hard,
Yeah.
especially for like podcasts. If you have this cool podcast, and it's like, oh, it's great. We talk about so many things. What should the title be? It's like,
Right.
oh, now I need to listen to this whole podcast. I need to identify, all right, what is the coolest thing about the podcast? How are we going to intro this? What are we
Mm.
going to do? It's hard, and
Yeah.
it's an hour long podcast. Like, you need to listen to it three
It's a lot.
times or whatever.
Yeah.
So instead, if you're like, okay, well, my audience likes this,
Mm.
and this creator or this guest is really good at this. So that combo is like, all right, well, let's talk about these 5 topics. I'm going to ask these questions,
Mm.
and then, one of these is going to be the title. And we definitely deliver on that because, like, we talked about it in the podcast. And
Yeah.
then we're also going to use that little segment to like tease the intro so that people like know exactly, like, okay, like the title is this. Oh, the intro tells me that they do cover this in this podcast.
Mm.
Boom. Like, this podcast is for me.
I'm feeling a lot of pressure to name this podcast episode, Jake. Not gonna lie. I should just feel like, hey, do you have any name recommendations for this
Uh,
one? Because I definitely did not title this episode before.
no,
I'm just going full transparency right now.
no, all right. And also, full transparency, I need to add this in my workflow whenever I go on podcasts,
Yep.
is because I never have a good title like prepared. And then people
Right.
ask me, hey, what should I title this? And
Yep,
I'm
yep.
like, oh, haven't really thought about it.
Well, I'm glad I'm
So,
not the first one to ask that, you know?
yeah, no, it's a mistake on my part for not coming prepared. Like, all right, hey, you sent me the topics beforehand. All right, well,
Yep.
the podcast is going to be, or the title is going to be one of these 4 things.
Oh, man. That's so good. That's so good. I love it. Now, I think we should just add a little bit of credibility to this conversation, Jake. And like, I feel like this might be a kind of a cool section for you to maybe do some name dropping, if you don't mind. Like, this is like you've worked with some, creators, like helping them out, and you don't have to actually name drop or anything. But if you have any like examples of like maybe case studies or anything like that, to where you saw this growth because of titles and you working with them, or maybe it's just from your newsletter and somebody reached out or something like that. Do you have any examples of just some of those case studies or anything along those lines?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't do consulting anymore
Okay.
because nobody would let me share case studies, and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, that
what?
makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I didn't really explore it that much.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yep.
and honestly, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, it's not only titles; it's like overall channel strategy. So,
Yeah, right.
like,
Yep.
a magic title isn't going to fix your whole channel.
Totally. Totally.
So I'm like, well, I could either be like a full service like consulting firm
Yep.
or like not. So anyway, so that's why I decided to go
Yeah.
software
Totally.
instead of the consulting thing. But I did consulting for a little bit. But so here are two quick stories
Yeah.
of the power of titles. So I was writing titles for it was like a real estate investment company.
Okay.
And so what they would do is their CEO would go on podcasts, and then they would take those podcasts and they would chop them up and put them on their channel. It was not YouTube first; like they did not come up with like the title first. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard.
Yeah.
And they would get, and this was like a year or two ago, so probably 2
Okay.
years ago. So they would get 100 to like 500 views a video, and then I started writing the titles and the thumbnail text,
Mhm.
and we started getting 500 to 5,000 views.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
up to like 10x.
Sweet. Yep.
And it was literally just changing the title, which was
Yeah.
cool. Just 10 words plus 4
Right.
words on the thumbnail text.
Yep.
And that 10x are their
Crazy.
their views.
Love it.
And sure, like we're only talking about like a couple hundred or a couple thousand views, but
That's
for
fantastic.
for a real estate
Yeah.
company, it's awesome. Or
Yeah.
for a big investing company.
That makes me happy
Yeah,
on that
exactly.
channel.
Yep. So, and then kind of on the other side, I had a dog channel that I was just like kind of a little side project,
Mhm.
and I was modeling a video that got a million views. It was like
Nice.
one of the better videos for one of my competitors, and I'm
Yep.
like, I think we could kind of take this at a slightly different angle. And that video got, I think, 7 million views.
Sweet.
So it could be it's a 6 or 7,
Yeah.
7x improvement.
Crazy.
And to be fair, it wasn't only the title.
Yeah.
I think it was a better video. The content
Yeah.
was really good. The thumbnail was really good. But that was a difference of 6 million views. So
That
so
blows
that
my
was-
mind.
yeah. And that's the power of titles. You
Yeah.
can get a couple hundred more views or a couple million more views.
Mm.
And that's why I love titles.
Yeah, that's sweet. When it comes to like the actual title, like you were kind of mentioned like 10 words, or 4 words on your thumbnail, that type of thing. Is there like a max that you probably shouldn't go over, like in the actual structure of a title? Or is
Uh,
it kind of just a free for all, just as long as it's a good title?
It depends on a lot of things. So depends on your audience.
Yep.
So typically, if you have an older audience, you can get away with longer titles. If you are
Nice.
trying to appeal to 13-year-olds, you probably want to have shorter titles.
Yeah.
If you're trying to rank in search, you can get away with longer titles because people are actively searching. So they're going to read your title to decide if they want to watch that video. So it can be a little bit longer. If you're
Yeah.
trying to get on the homepage, then your titles typically want to be shorter because people are kind of passively reading those titles.
Mm.
They're scrolling. So if it's an 80 character title on the homepage, they're probably not going to read it.
Mm.
Not saying that you can't do well with those. You can do well, but it's not because the title was long. It's because the first half of the title was really good or the thumbnail was really good.
And if it's too long, it doesn't necessarily all show up either, does it?
Yeah, it'll get truncated, so you'll see
Yeah.
dot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just super like general character recommendations. Like, if you're trying to get on the homepage, 40 to 65
Okay.
characters. If you're trying to rank in search, 50 to 70 maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So also search will get truncated less,
Mm.
depending on what. At least for sure on the desktop. I don't know about
Yeah. Right.
mobile, but I'm sure it's truncated less. So anyway, so yeah, like it depends on where you're going for. A super general rule is like my titles are around 65 characters.
Gotcha. Yeah. I do like, thinking back on my personal channel where I talk about cameras and things like that, like I was definitely targeting that search and I'm looking back at some of my videos and they're like super super long. Like I'm using max character count. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
maxing it out and putting like camera names and in there and everything. But after after we chatted a little bit, this past fall or whenever that was, I started my titles becoming shorter and just a little bit more in general. And what I've noticed is that it's starting to reach little bit different of an audience as well. And you know how I can tell is by the comments that I get on there. It's like these are not like regular viewers on my channel. So I definitely know. So like as the snowplow is like going past my studio right here, I'm just going to ask this question as well. Like thinking back on, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but
Yeah.
it's definitely there. You and your sunshine. The So thinking back of like titles, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Has YouTube been around for 15 years? Like I wish I would have started back then. But like what's the kind of the difference between like the how has titles changed over the last several years, if at all?
So, uh, they've changed a lot and they haven't changed at all.
Okay. All right.
So when you were talking about titles and like what makes people click is like
Yeah.
really what we're talking about, and like what
Yeah.
gets people's attention, what gets them to take action. It's just like a psychology
Mm,
conversation, and psychology hasn't changed in
yeah.
10,000 years, 10 million years, however,
I
however
graduate I
long.
graduated with a psychology degree, Jake. I did. But then
Dude,
I
so did
didn't
I.
go in. Yeah, sweet. Then I didn't go any further with it. So now I'm doing this type of stuff.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I think I mentioned this earlier in the show. Like that's why I feel like I should have known that I would have ended up here because I have
Yeah.
a psychology degree.
Yeah, sweet.
Like didn't know. I was like, oh, like, I'm not gonna
Using it every
be
day.
perfect. Yeah, but I am. My professors would be proud.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, psychology hasn't changed, but how you kind of implement the different psychological triggers or principles has
Yeah.
changed a little bit.
Mm,
And it's mostly because some things just kind of get they get kind of played out. So
yeah.
in like 20 like 15 or so, like all those BuzzFeed articles would be
Mm.
like, you know, 17 gifts you should get for your wife. You'll never guess number 12. And everything said you'll never guess
Yeah.
middle number.
Hey,
Um,
during the recording of this, it is close to Valentine's Day, so that might be a relevant article.
exactly. So, which is why I need to go watch that video or read that
Yeah, no
article.
kidding. Yep.
Um, uh, but, um, but yeah, so everyone was like, "Oh, you'll never guess," and then people were like, "Oh, that's clickbait." Like, yes, it worked very well, but now
Mm,
you almost never see that anymore
right.
because we're kind of trained like, "Oh, that's clickbait." But
Mm,
what that really was doing is like, "Hey, you'll never guess this." Like that opened a loop. It's like,
yeah.
"Oh, what is number 12?"
Mm,
Um, and we kind of do the same thing. It's like, buy this, the best present to buy your spouse on Valentine's Day.
yeah.
It's like, okay, what is this present? I need to know. So it's the same, psychological trigger that's
Yeah.
getting you to click, but it's just kind of implemented slightly differently.
Mm,
And oftentimes those have to do with trends and like usage and people overusing different tactics.
yeah,
But it's
interesting.
the same kind of the same general concepts are still true.
So how about the future of titles? Like, do you see trends going a different way, as we kind of, move into 2025 and the future of what YouTube looks like? What does that look like? Or do you think there's no change? I mean, there could be no change with it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple different thoughts here. So I've been writing the newsletter since 2021, I think.
Okay.
And if you go in the database and you
Yep.
like filter by like oldest videos, like sometimes I read those titles and I'm like,
Yeah.
was this written yesterday or was this written
Mm,
4 years ago?
mm,
They're exactly the same, many of
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
However, the platform is changing a little bit. So like we talked about credibility earlier.
Yeah.
Well, in the age of AI, credibility is more important.
Mm,
So it's possible. I think it's likely that you kind of like, at least kind of in the maybe short term or near term, is that you're going to need to, display your credibility as to why people should listen to you, and that's going to work very well.
Mm.
So just a couple months ago, a huge trend was like, 10 years of business advice in 10 minutes.
Yep.
20
Some of
years
those.
of audio visual
Yep.
experience in 20 minutes. And that was showing like, hey, I'm credible. I have a lot of experience,
Yeah.
and I'm going to boil it down to you in like in a way that you're going to like it because it's really short. So you're
Mm.
going to get a lot for a little.
Yeah.
And I think stuff like that, like showing your credibility, might be more popular as we get more into AI.
Mm.
Has nothing really to do with YouTube
Yep. Yep.
or like titles or anything. It's just like this is the nature of content.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like I see that discussion a lot of like with the rise of AI, it's just like now we need that human element. We need that relatable human element story, right? That's always
Yeah.
been popular, like storytelling, like rather than just like punching out a bunch of information. Now, how are we going to like incorporate these stories, especially when
Right.
it comes to businesses? I think that's super important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And and that will be reflected in the titles, but it's
Hmm.
not going to be that much different. But
Yep.
but it might be.
Yeah.
But for the generally speaking, a lot of it's going to be the same.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I probably could keep talking about YouTube um, in general, probably all day. I know that you
Yes.
don't have all day, um, but this has been really intriguing. But one thing I want to do is like, as we kind of wrap up here, like what? Okay, somebody's watching this conversation. We talked about YouTube titles, importance of YouTube titles, a little bit of structure of YouTube titles. If they don't get anything else from this whole conversation, Jake, like what's one thing, somebody watching this, what's one thing that they can take away from this whole conversation when it comes to YouTube titles?
One thing is identify channels that you want to be like, that you
Mm.
like their style, then and they create content similar to you,
Yeah.
they have a similar style, and just pretend like go to their channel, see what they wrote as their title,
Mm.
and you write the same exact title except
Mm.
for your channel.
Mm.
And do that 100 times, and then you'll be like really good at titles. Probably, if you see
Nice.
what works, see what doesn't work, you're gonna
Yep.
you're gonna be really good. But that's the easy thing is the first thing that I do if I start a new channel,
Yep.
I have 3 to 5 of those
Mm.
channels, and I'm just like, I am this channel. I write in this style. Like, let me just steal almost word for word.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of develop your voice and you
Mm.
see what works. And you do that to get started, and then you can start kind of branching out,
Yeah.
testing different things. But that's the easiest thing, and that was
Mm.
the thing that really helped me when I was learning how to write a good title. Is I would just look at what has proven to work, and then I just modeled that very closely.
That's so good. Have you read the book Steal Like an Artist?
I have not.
Okay. Austin Kleon, Steal Like an Artist. I recommend this book. He actually has 3 books. This video is not sponsored by Austin Kleon, but he has 3 books. It's this good. Steal Like an Artist, Show Your Work, and Keep Going. You can read all 3 in an afternoon, and maybe I'll even just link them down in the description here, but you can do all 3 in the afternoon. That's how short they are, but that's that concept right there. Is like we find inspiration from all these other places, like use that. Like all the great artists, throughout history have been inspired by whatever it might be, and they've incorporated those things into their work. And that's basically the premise of, Steal Like an Artist. And like you use that right there in what you just said, which I think is fantastic. So it just maybe think about that book. And like I said, I'm just going to promote it down in the description. So with an affiliate link.
Yeah, and then just to kind of talk a little bit about finding similar channels. So just some examples. I was working at a fishing company. We were
Mhm.
of educational content, and I looked for marketing and like finance channels that were making
Nice.
educational content.
Gotcha.
Like technology channels that were making educational content.
Yeah.
If you're a vlogger and like let's say you do like travel vlogs,
Mm.
look at like like lifestyle vlogs.
Mm.
Look for other vlogging channels. If you're like a talking head video, find other talking head
Yeah.
educational videos. Whatever you are. And also look at channels that are a couple steps ahead of you,
Hmm.
often channels that are in um, t- hard niches, like, I guess, like, saturated or big
Yep.
niches. And because, it's hard to be successful in those
Right.
niches, like, only the really good channels are going to be successful.
Yeah.
So find a couple of those, channels that you like, that you want your style to be like, that you would kind of make you proud of, like, oh man, like, that's my title.
Yeah.
And then and follow those. So I
So
think that's
good.
a big question that people have, is like, oh, how do
Yeah.
I find those channels?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Well, this has been awesome talking about YouTube titles. Jake, where can people find you and how can they get a hold of your newsletter if they want to sign up?
Yeah, creatorhooks.com. Um, there's one option there: sign up for the newsletter. It's free. I send it out every Monday, and it's more for kind of educational channels,
Hmm.
edutainment channels.
Yep.
So if that's you, sign up creatorhooks.com. You can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Jake Thomas. Just search Jake Thomas, look for a guy with a gold retriever in his profile
Nice.
picture, and that is me.
The YouTube title Daddy.
Yes.
Jake, this has been so good, man. I appreciate you being on the show and chatting YouTube titles.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Maybe in the future we can do this again sometime.
Dude,
So
I'd
I
love to.
appreciate it. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man. Have a good rest of your sunny day.
I will.
I'm gonna go out into the snow and freeze.
Good luck.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot, man.